Hey, it's good to be with you all. We do have another ROS session that we're going to go through today. And so to kick things off, I'm going to show a little video clip. So I don't know if you guys have seen the Rocky movies, but there are a lot of these Rocky movies. So this clip actually comes from the sixth Rocky movies. There's 5 Rocky movies. And then in 2006, there was a movie called Rocky Balboa. And I'll just tee this scene up real quick. So Rocky Balboa's son is kind of complaining about life. He's like, life is hard. I got to do all these things. And I'll tell you what, I get some of these same complaints from my kids these days. Like, you know, something difficult comes, a little bit of adversity comes, and it becomes like a meltdown from one of my kids. So this scene stuck out to me. I'll be honest, I haven't seen all the Rocky movies, which is probably like blasphemy for somebody from Philadelphia who was actually pretty good at boxing back in the day. But I did see this movie, and I remember this clip very vividly. And now when my kids complain about life's adversity, I think about this clip. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hit play here.
Somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Love it. No, not gonna make you watch it again. How about that? I mean, those are some good words there. So life is gonna kind of throw punches at you, and you know, anybody that's been on this earth for you know, any amount of years knows that that's true. That life comes and throws punches, and I've shared some of my story, some of the, you know, the kind of punches that have been thrown at me through the years. And I really believe that this Rhino operating system is just an operating system for life that helps you deal with life's punches. It helps you kind of get back up and keep going day in and day out when the inevitable adversity comes. That adversity is coming, and it's all about our ability to get up when we get knocked down. So today's component is really one of my favorite aspects of something that keeps us going and sort of keeps us day in and day out moving forward. And it's a part of the how component. Just a reminder, the last session we did about a month ago, I told a little bit of my story of kind of early, you know, 2017, 2018, when we were doing a little bit of everything. So, you know, I'm doing some leasing, maintenance, bookkeeping, property management. We're third party managing a commercial property. We're flipping a house. We're doing renovations. We're doing ground up new construction. We had this oil and gas thing going on, getting my general contractor license. I mean, we're literally doing a little bit of everything. And this was when I didn't really have the right tools in my life to organize a lot of the day in and day out work that I was doing. So notwithstanding the fact that we were doing way too much as an organization, I also was just kind of all over the place as an individual. And so the how component kind of then takes that to the next level of what does it look like to actually organize my year, my quarter, my weeks, and my days around the activities that I really need to be doing right now. So it was 2019 when I stumbled across the Full Focus Planner. And that really got my attention and helped me kind of take what had been the whirlwind and organize it into these various rhythms of execution. So just a reminder what those rhythms of execution are. Annual planning and quarterly planning are what we talked about last month. So that's really where you take your life plan and all the stuff that we did in the who and the why component, and you start to boil it down into rhythmic execution in your annual and your quarterly planning. Today, we're going to talk about weekly and daily planning. And this is just my absolute favorite. It's probably the most important thing that I do. There's a Stephen Covey quote where he says, the week or the weekly planning is like a piece of fabric in the quilt. It's like an entire piece of fabric in the quilt of your life. It's like the most important thing for you to get right and to get clear on in order for you to really be able to execute what you're doing daily. So my question for you all, we're going to start with just a quick Zoom poll. Be honest. These are anonymous responses, but how are you currently doing your weekly and daily planning? And of course, one of the responses is, if you're not doing it, be honest. Or if you're new and you're like, hey, I don't even know what weekly and daily planning is, there's an option for that. Just check off that you're not doing it. Totally fine. If you're using the Full Focus Planner, you can check that off. If you're using the ROS app, check that off. Maybe you have a different system. Maybe you even have your own system. It could be a piece of paper and a pencil, whatever you're doing. Go ahead and just punch in what you're doing, and then we'll share the results with you all. All right, looks like we got pretty much everyone in. Let me go ahead and share the results. So 21% of you are not doing weekly or daily planning at all. So thank you for being honest. Hopefully today's session will help you understand the importance of doing weekly and daily planning. And then you've got a mix of folks using the Full Focus Planner, which is great. It's a great paper-based planner. I know I use the ROS app. Kim uses it. We didn't vote in here, but I think there's a minority of folks using the ROS app. So I'll just make a plug for anybody that wants to do an electronic version of the Full Focus Planner that exists. And some of you are either using a different system or your own system. If you're so inclined and you want to share what those other systems are in the chat, or even talk about what it is to have your own system, feel free to post those in the chat. But super helpful just to get a sense of where everybody is. I think there are a lot of tools out there. And, everybody, for you guys, it's really about using the tool that works for you. So yeah, that could be Google Calendar, that could be a pen and paper. It's really just about using the tool that works for you. But let me tell you why I think it is important to be doing weekly and daily planning. I don't care how you do it, but I do want to recommend that you do it. So for the about 21% of you that aren't doing it all, hopefully this will give you a little bit of a rationale for why it is important. So these are what I'm going to call just kind of the three abilities that we get from doing weekly and daily planning. The first ability is the ability to prioritize. So the reality is life is full of distractions. As you saw in that video, life is also full of adversity. And everything can kind of feel pressing. It's like sometimes somebody will make a request of you and it's like, oh, I need to do that immediately. Somebody else makes a request. I need to do that immediately. Well, research shows that anytime you shift your focus from one task to another, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to focus on that new task. So just imagine, again, just hearing my story of I'm doing all these different things, right? The leasing and the maintenance, the property management, the bookkeeping, doing a little bit of everything. It's hard to imagine that every time I shift to a new task, it's going to take me 23 minutes to refocus on that new task. So when you set clear priorities, you're able to say, this is my most important thing for today or for this week, and this is where I'm giving my energy. And this Harvard Business Review article actually says you're 10% more productive than those who do not plan as long as you prioritize those tasks for your week and for your day. So the first ability is the ability to prioritize. The second ability from weekly and daily planning is the ability to prepare. So one of the things I love about planning is it allows you to actually prepare for those meetings and those tasks ahead of time. And research actually shows that when you set a task for the next day and you say, here's something I'm going to do tomorrow, your subconscious starts working on that task the day prior, and even while you sleep. Like you'll start thinking about how to solve that task the next day while you sleep. It's incredible. So it allows you to prepare for what you're going to do the next day, the next week, whatever it may be. Instead of jumping in Monday morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I have 1,000 things to do. What, some of you probably felt that even this morning as we're doing this on Monday morning, just feeling like, oh, I don't even have time for this meeting, or I have 1,000 things to do. And when you plan ahead, that you're not playing catch up, and you're more confident in executing on what's most important for you for that day. And that produces two results. One is, it actually says that you're 70% more likely to do that thing. So to accomplish what you set out to accomplish because you prepared for it. And second, it actually lowers your stress levels. It gives you this internal sense of calm and control. According to Psychology Today, you're really able to navigate through those challenges a little bit better than you would have been able to if you just are throwing all these tasks and you start doing them one at a time. So second ability is the ability to prepare. And the third ability is the ability to perform. And performance is really what it's all about. It's the ability to perform at your best, not wasting time. Again, research shows that if you write down your goals or you write down your tasks, you're actually 42% more likely to complete them. So even if you just have a task management system, and you're just writing it down and saying, these are the things that I want to accomplish, it helps to eliminate decision fatigue. It helps you to say, okay, well, here are the things that I know that I need to do and get done. And you're 42% more likely to complete them. So again, the ability to perform, actually execute on what is most important for you today and this week. So just a quick recap. Again, this is my rationale, my argument for all of you that are not currently doing weekly and daily planning is they give you the ability to prioritize, the ability to prepare, and the ability to perform. So those are the three abilities that you get from just planning your weeks and your days ahead. Now, in terms of the tools, there are a ton of tools that you can use for planning. I saw Gina has a tool she's using. She was a Google sheet from Etsy that has like a habit tracker in it. I'm going to share just some Google Docs just to show you how simple this can be. But I will say that the Full Focus Planner, if you're using a paper-based tool, has all of this built in. So I'll just go through my weekly planning real quick. So weekly planning, I always start out by celebrating wins. So some personal wins from the past week for me, celebrating 11-year anniversary with Shannon, doing some fall activities with the family. This was actually my weekly planning from the prior week. I got to hang out with the Fishers and see baby Fisher, which was awesome. Also had some professional wins, YPO trip, which I was on this past week, finalizing my rocks, setting milestones for those, and doing some podcast recordings. I think I recorded like 3 podcasts last week. I'm recording another one today. This is actually me on other folks' podcasts in addition to having folks on our podcast. So then I come up with weekly focus outcomes. If you're using the Full Focus Planner, this is called your big 3 for the week. For me, this YPO trip, getting my rocks and milestones done. And then I wanted to really catch up on email and tasks, which I was able to do on the flights. That's one of the nice things about traveling is as long as the flight has good Wi-Fi, I'm able to catch up on some email and some tasks that I've been putting off. So I do give myself partial credit for these. I didn't totally get through my second 2 weekly outcomes just because traveling was a little bit more time consuming than I had hoped. But from there, I'll go into some feedback, what worked, what didn't work, what I want to keep, improve, start, stop doing. So one of the things that worked, again, I think plane time while traveling is a good thing for me. Some things I need to improve, just email processing. Email was starting to build up a little bit. And I just didn't have enough focus time. For me, I actually block off focus time on my calendar. And I aim for an hour of focus time every day in addition to my weekly startup and weekly shutdown. And believe it or not, even though an hour doesn't sound like that much, that hour has been getting squeezed in my calendar recently where I've had 30 minutes or even no focus time at all on certain days. So I'm just trying to improve that as well. And then I'll just do a few things. I'll do a calendar preview for the next week. I'll do a task sweep, go through all my tasks, push them out if I didn't complete them, check them off if I did complete them, maybe make a comment to Kim if we need to collaborate. And then I'll set my focus outcomes for the next week, which for this coming week, I'm recording the audiobook for the ROS book. I'm actually starting to record that tomorrow. So getting the studio here set up. I'm going to be recording it right here, going on Zoom with the producer who's going to be coaching me through the audiobook recording. Super excited for that. Got the maintenance event that Shannon just mentioned, so I'll be doing some prep for that as well. And then we're starting to think about launching a 5th fund next year. So there's a brainstorming doc that I need to review as well. That's going to take up a good chunk of my week. And then there's this habit tracker. I like habit tracking as a part of my daily and weekly rhythms. So for me, things like working out are things I track. This is a year where I actually wanted to reduce my amount of drinking and consumption. And so I'm just tracking that as well. Traveling, unfortunately, this past week when you're at like a conference, drinking tends to be a part of it. And then of course I was celebrating 11 years with Shannon this past Saturday. So we had a couple of drinks as well, but I'm tracking those, just how am I doing in terms of working out and drinking. And that just helps me thinking about my goals for the year. All right, I got a couple of bonuses for you all. So bonus number 1 is in addition to our weekly rhythmic planning that I do as an individual, my wife and I actually do a marriage weekly meeting. So I'll just share the agenda with you. I've talked about this before. I know a lot of you may view this as too rigid or too structured. I'm here to tell you this is a great way to solve issues and get on the same page with your spouse. So if you are married, I highly recommend. Shannon and I do ours during lunch on Mondays, but you can do it anytime. I know the Fishers do it as well. There's a few other folks that I know do this, but it's been really good for us. So we do a check-in. We just say, hey, how are you doing? Like, how are you really doing? We also, as a part of this, do what we call our 3-in-1. So it's what are 3 things that you did the past week that I really appreciate? And maybe what's one thing that you did that was frustrating? And we share those with each other. It creates an open space for open and honest dialogue with each other. So we do that during our check-in. We review the calendar for the upcoming week, talk about any conflicts so that there's no last minute surprises. We'll say, hey, do you need the car for this thing? Do I need the car? We just work those things out in our weekly planning. We review the to-do list with each other, anything that was to do, make sure nothing falls through the cracks. And then we have topics. So you would call these issues. If you're used to running on EOS, we're just calling them topics so that issues doesn't sound so heavy. But really what we do is we IDS. So if you're used to EOS, we do our own personal version of issues solving. And then we wrap up, capture to-dos, and move on. So that's our weekly marriage meeting. Bonus number 2 for you all is our weekly family meeting. So again, you've probably heard me talk about this, but this has been super transformative for us as a family. We launched this just this past year, and our goal was to at least 50% of Sundays do a family meeting as a family. And interestingly enough, we've been way over that. Our kids actually look forward to this. They say, hey, are we doing family meeting? And I'll explain why they look forward to it as I go through the agenda. But this is something we do just similar to the marriage meeting where we want to get our family on the same page as well. So we start out with what we call compliments, appreciations, and gratitude. So we have a little talking stick and we pass it around to anybody that wants to talk, and we just express gratitude for each other. What do we appreciate about each other? And hearing our kids express gratitude to each other is the cutest thing you've ever heard. Like, hey, I really appreciated that you jumped on the trampoline with me yesterday. But it helps build in these muscles of gratitude and appreciation and compliments. Then they get what we call a no strings attached allowance. We follow a parenting philosophy called positive parenting solutions. I'm not going to get into that today, but Amy, who developed it, recommends a no strings attached allowance. The reason it's no strings attached is she recommends not building into children the aspect of entitlement where it's like, hey, if you clean up the house, you get an allowance or something like that. So we're trying to be very careful of not building entitlement into our kids' behavior. And so this no strings attached allowance is one thing we do. It teaches them money management. So when they ask us for toys, we're out in public, they say, hey, can I get this toy? We say, yeah, you can buy that with your own money. How much money do you have? So it allows us to remove ourselves as like, the giver of all things, and lets them buy their own things. Then we go through the weekly calendar with them. We also do meal planning and meal prep with them. That gives them a voice into the meals that we're going to have for the week. So they get to kind of say, hey, here's maybe something that I'd be interested in, on Wednesday for dinner. Like they said, hey, let's do sweet potato shepherd's pie for Wednesday for dinner this week. We're like, yeah, sounds great. Let's do it. Then we review our family mission statement and core values. Again, this is that who component stuff we talked about, similar to how we have unique values and DNA. Our family has a unique DNA and core values. Then we go through issue solving with our kids. We call it topics and training, but again, it's IDS time with our kiddos. They can add stuff to the agenda. So we have the agenda on our fridge, and we'll let them just add stuff in. Say both kids added an issue this past week. Our middle child wanted to talk about sharing and making sure that her sisters are not biting and hitting and pinching her. So she added that to the agenda. And our oldest daughter wanted to talk about how she could make more money by selling cookies and juice out in front of our house. So, I mean, how cute is that, right? Like, it's just, they get to add these issues and then we solve the issues with them. So it's a lot of fun. Then they get a snack. One of the kids is a snack preparer. Somebody else is a snack helper. And then we do a family fun activity. And again, another one of the kids is the family fun activity planner. So we let them plan the family fun activity and we do it together as a family. So that's our family meeting that we do every week. Again, hopefully that helps you all. It's a lot of fun for us as a family, and it's been really helpful, like for getting us all on the same page. Mel, great question. How long does it take? It depends, but generally about 30 minutes. And that's not including the family fun activity. So family fun activity might be, they want to, like literally last night, they wanted to play Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf, which is where they all run around the house, try and get away from me, and I'll grab them and throw them on the couches and beat them up because I'm the Big Bad Wolf. So like, we'll do that for as long as they want, or until somebody gets hurt is usually what happens. Until somebody cries, then we wrap it up. But the formal agenda plus the snack is about 30 minutes. Honestly, the formal agenda is probably 15 to 20 minutes, like of actual going through. Yeah, it's shorter. Because honestly, our kids just don't have long attention spans. So maybe like honestly 10 minutes, not including the snack, and particularly if we don't have any issues to solve. If we have issues to solve, just real quick, I know this isn't a parenting lesson at all, but what we do is role play. So our kids love this. Shannon and I will role play the particular issues. So if it's like sharing, for example, like we'll pretend like one of us is the kid that's not sharing and one of them is the kid that wants to, us to share, and we'll role play it in a bad way, and then we'll role play it in a good way. And our kids just love it. They think it's so funny. So if we're doing, that'll take a little bit longer as well. All right. Again, not a parenting lesson at all, but I figured I'd share that. That's part of our weekly rhythm. So our weekly rhythm, again, I do personal weekly planning. We do weekly marriage planning and weekly family planning. So then it comes down to daily planning. Daily planning, I like to start my days in gratitude. So I journal a few things I'm grateful for. I noticed that Shannon is now doing this in her daily check-ins as well. It's also the way in which Shannon and I end our day, sharing a little bit about what we're grateful for from the prior day. Then I'll set my focus tasks for the day. Sometimes I'll actually set those the day prior. So for today, I've got this Monday team meeting session I need to do, plus prep for it. I've got a podcast this afternoon that I need to prep for as well. And hopefully I have time to review this Fun 5 doc as well. Then I'll go through kind of a little bit of a checklist for the day, meeting preparation, what meetings are on my calendar, and what, if anything, do I need to do to prepare for those? What tasks do I have on my calendar? What do I need to do? And then I'll do kind of a messages sweep, which is triaging anything from email, Slack, voicemail. I don't respond to everything then, but I will triage it. I'll either mark it as a reply if I need to reply to somebody, get back to it, but I'll go through everything. That way I at least know exactly what's there. And then I also have this just kind of other task section. If you use the full focus planner, you've probably seen this in the planner as well, areas where you can capture additional tasks that aren't just your focus tasks or your big 3 for the day. And then I'll have a notes section where I'll just capture other things like, oh yeah, this came up during the day. I needed to tell Kim to do this one thing with Ed and Josh. That way, when I do my daily check-in with Kim, I have that note there that'll say, oh, by the way, I need to connect with you about this. Third bonus for you. So I know you're getting all the bonuses you paid for today. So the third bonus that I want to share is this thing called GeekBot. So GeekBot is a Slack integration. You get your own personal channel that is set up for accountability and collaboration. So I have mine set where I do my daily and my weekly check-in. It goes into a channel and I can invite folks into that channel. So like Kim, Ed, Shannon, they can all see my daily and weekly check-ins. And they can support me in achieving those. And part of my daily and weekly check-in is just like, how am I doing today? And they'll know if I'm not doing so well. And sometimes they'll say, hey, sorry to hear you're not feeling well, hope you feel better, that kind of thing. So here's my actual weekly check-in from this morning. So there's my big 3 for the week, which I already shared with you. And then it says, hey, is there anything that's blocking your progress? So in this case, yes, I don't have a ton of focus time this week, and that is almost certainly going to block my progress from being able to do the Fun 5 brainstorming doc in all likelihood, and maybe even complete a couple of these other things. Then my daily check-in, it says, hey, how do you feel today? Feeling pretty good today. How'd you do on your big 3 yesterday? So here's some accountability. Sometimes it's a 0 for 3. Sometimes it's a 1 for 3. Friday, I actually got most of my big 3 done. And I give myself partial credit sometimes, so 2.5 for 3. Another piece of accountability I like is just how much time did you spend working outside of work hours? My goal is to get this down to 1 hour a day for 4 days a week. So 4 hours a week is the most I'd like to work outside of work hours. And I worked 2 hours yesterday, just getting caught up on a couple of things, particularly related to the book. Then I share my big 3 for today. And again, anything blocking my progress. So I share if anything is blocking my progress for today. So that's it. Those are my 3 bonuses. That's how I do weekly and daily planning. I do all of mine in the ROS app now. Just so you know, the official ROS app is under development, but we do have a beta ROS app in Notion. If any of you are interested in getting access to that, you can reach out to me or Kim to get access. Obviously, if you're not doing it at all, I recommend the Full Focus Planner as a place to start. I think it's the paper-based version that's just really simple and everything is already built in there. So where do you go from here? Well, before I jump into that, just a quick recap. The reason to do weekly and daily planning is it gives you the ability to prioritize, to prepare, and to perform. And let's go ahead and give you a couple action items where you go from here. So first of all, I would schedule and conduct a weekly planning session. I do mine Friday afternoons. I've just found that before I go into the weekend, having already done my weekly planning is the best time for me. So that's honestly the time slot that I recommend. It's 1 hour. Kim and I do it together, and just get it on your calendar. Get it on your calendar to start doing weekly planning if it's not there currently. Second, I recommend that you block off some time for daily planning. So what I do is I have a weekly startup routine and a daily startup routine and daily shutdown routine. So from 8 to 9 a.m. and then from 4 to 5 p.m., I try to block those off to do my daily planning, to do all those things that I just talked about. It doesn't have to take a full hour though. It could be less than 30 minutes. Just block it off. A little bit of planning goes a really long way. So block it off, do the planning. It'll take you far. And then lastly, I recommend that you set up some accountability. This stuff just doesn't happen if you're not like holding yourself accountable and having other people hold you accountable. So maybe just mention to a team member that you're going to be doing this. If you have a peer to do weekly planning with, I highly recommend that. doing weekly planning with somebody else is great. We used to do it as an organization. We had a call that folks would jump on and do it together. But short of doing that, I recommend using Geekbot. So Geekbot's a great way to asynchronously have accountability as opposed to needing to jump on a Zoom call. But in the early days, jumping on a Zoom call with a peer to do these is really super helpful, just again, to even get some input on, hey, here's what I think I'm going to do for the week. What do you think? It can be really helpful. If you want to get set up on Geekbot, by the way, you can reach out to Mel. He can set you up on that Slack integration. Thanks, Mel. All right, so we're pretty much at time here. Happy to open it up for any questions that you all might have. You can raise your virtual hand, you can post in the chat, or you can come off mute.
Andrew, what do you think is like the biggest resistance people have when it comes to like doing this? Because as somebody who I struggle with scheduling. I started out planning. For me, part of it, I like living like kind of day to day and all that. And I recognize that's somewhat not as productive as I could be. It's just kind of how I feel like I'm wired. So like, what advice would you give to somebody that's like just getting their feet wet with this whole concept?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the resistance is going to come, right? Like that's why I started with that Rocky video. Resistance is going to come from a lot of areas. It might come from lack of motivation, might come from just being tired, might come from actual adversity that you're dealing with, might come from, adversity like being sick or something, might come from the whirlwind, right? The whirlwind is just around you and you're like, I cannot plan for today. So it could come from a lot of areas. I think the key, get it on your calendar, protect the time, just like anything else. Commit to it, enlist accountability, and little by little, you'll find yourself doing these habits, just like anything else in life. So I'd say like just start and try to, try to enlist some accountability to help keep you motivated. All right, well, we are at time. I'm excited for where we are in the ROS journey. We have one more session left, which is going to be in November. We're going to cover the when component. We're only going to do the when component in one session because we're going to do a quizzes in December that I think will be a lot of fun, doing a full year recap on all things ROS. Next week, just a little plug for the Monday team meeting next week. We have a guy by the name of Rabbi Josh Bennett, who was somebody we were trying to have join one of our quarterly meetings, but the scheduling didn't work out. So he's going to join our Monday team meeting next week and talk about community. And he's going to talk about what does it look like to build community in his world. So I think you're going to really enjoy that. Highly recommend you all come back next week. And until then, have a great week improving lives through real estate. Thanks, everyone.